Now, earlier on, I read out a text from a person who was finding it almost impossible to get their benefit sorted out, their social welfare payment. I think in the case of the listener I mentioned, it was to do with a case of not having gotten a payment since, I think it was last June or July. And I was quite surprised by it, to be honest with you. And then suddenly a deluge of texts started appearing on my screen from people all over the place who are finding it impossible. The text I did mention was the one of a person on partial capacity benefit, meaning they can only work part-time due to illness, but they haven't received this payment since July. And when they ring the offices in Dublin, they can't get through. We had other calls from people waiting 47 minutes to try and speak to an operator, and they simply couldn't get through. So there's a huge issue now with people who have had their payments stopped. This is their illness benefit payments stopped. And there is, I know, a new automated system which sounds as if it's not working. Anyway, I'm joined on the line by Senator Rose Conway-Walsh. Rose, good morning.
Good morning, Tommy.
You're getting lots of calls as well.
Yes, we have been getting lots of calls for the last number of weeks. And that's why we put a parliamentary question, into Regina Doherty on this. Now, we were quite alarmed for her to say that no payments had been affected, because obviously we knew from the amount of calls that we were getting that payments were affected. So it's to do with the changeover, as you said, of the computer system, and the fact that people are sending in the forms, that's the MR1 forms in particular, and that they're not being uploaded to the system, so they're not being taken account of, and therefore people's payments are being stopped.
Okay, so to put this in context, if I suddenly become ill, maybe I was working and then I became ill, or I have an illness which prevents me from working, I am obviously entitled, once I meet the criteria, of an illness benefit payment. You fill up the MR1 form and you send it in, and what's happening is that people aren't getting any correspondence or any communication back, and then they start ringing wondering what's happening, and they can't get through to the operators because I understand the office isn't open at particular hours.
Well, not even that it's not open in particular hours. I tried again this morning to get through, and you just cannot get through. There's two different numbers, the 01704 3817 and 3818, and there's no answer from those numbers. There's been no answer last week. The other thing is that the Intrio offices can't even get through to those numbers, or through the department numbers as well. So they're left in a limbo situation, because obviously they have people coming in to them with forms, because there was an instruction then last week for people to go in and through the Intrio offices, and that they would get paid in that way. So there's a whole lot of confusion around it, and compounded by a denial by the minister.
You all right there?
Sorry, I am, yes.
Okay.
I have a bit of a cold.
That's all. You're not entitled to illness benefit for it, I hope.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
No.
So we have this issue where people can't get through, they're not getting paid, and nobody seems to be addressing the issue. You're saying that the minister is saying there's no problem.
Yes, and that's why I think at this stage that people, if they can at all, need to actually call the minister's office on it, or to email the minister's office.
How do you
directly.
do that?
They'll get we don't have broadband here now again today, so I couldn't get the number directly for you.
Okay.
But people will just Minister Regina Doherty's office, and they will get an email or a number there. I think they need to do that. They also need to go back into their Intrio offices as well.
Okay, we'll get a number on screen. I've just asked them for a number on screen, so hopefully before you finish we'll have that telephone number. Now, we don't want to be bombarding Minister, but at the end of the day, if she's denying any wrong or any glitch in the system here, she needs to be aware.
She needs to know, because to quote her, no payments have been affected. You know, you can't get much.
Yeah, but your payments have been. I mean, you have them. We have them.
Yes.
So, what's the problem?
Well, I suppose there's a denial of the problem in the first place. But I mean, they can't even get people to answer the phones. If you had somebody at the other end of the phone that could say, look, this is what's happened and this is when your payment is being made, then at least people would know where they stood. But they don't until they go to collect the payment. And then last week now, some people who hadn't got the payment before did actually get a payment last week. In fact, then some people got an overpayment. But it's the not knowing whether you're going to get it, then maybe getting it, maybe not getting it. And in the meantime, people have all bank charges because of direct debits being declined and all of that, because they were dependent on that money being in their bank accounts. So it's not, and you have to remember that all of these people are off sick, so they're unwell. They're unwell for whatever reason. They're unable to work. And the man that was on earlier this morning said he can work certain days and he can't work other days. You know, so you are dealing with a vulnerable population.
Yeah. Okay, we have a telephone number for Regina Doherty's office. If any listener out there is being affected by not getting their illness benefit payment, you can ring Regina Doherty's office. It's a Dublin number, prefix 01, and the number is 825 7204. That's 01 825 7204. So if you ring that office, you won't get to speak to the minister. I assume you'll get to speak to one of her receptionists or administrators, but at least articulate your difficulty with not having received your illness benefit payment, so that at least she's aware that there are people who are affected by all of this. This has nothing to do, has it, with the GPs?
No, it shouldn't. No, it wouldn't, because that's all. You know, the forms are already filled in and signed, so it wouldn't have anything to do with the GPs in that case. I think the other thing, Tommy, that's important is where people have had bank charges because of payments being declined, that they should keep a note of those to have them, because we have been asking as well that the minister would, or that they would reimburse those charges, particularly where there are a lot of charges for people.
Yeah, Anne says, I'm off work sick due to no fault of my own since the 5th of October. I've only received 2 payments. There's a new system in where you can get from your doctor for 3 weeks a cert, instead of going on each week to have a cert issued, paying them €50 plus each visit. As already said, either local or Dublin office won't answer, and they don't seem to be aware of this new system. I, for one, would love to be able to work, but personally can't at the moment. That's Anne. So there's other issues. Okay, so let's see if Regina Doherty might get the message loud and clear from our listeners this morning who are getting or having difficulty getting their illness benefit payments sorted out, to give her office a call, 01 825 7204. Just before I do let you go, a bad week for Sinn Féin last week.
It was a disappointing week, Tommy. There's no mistake about it. I mean, you know...
the disappointment is glossing over it. It was a disaster.
Well, I suppose I was mindful of, you know, if you think back to 2011 when Fine Gael had 70 seats and Gay Mitchell got 6% of the vote, I know now how they felt at the time. But I did know, Tommy, in the last 10 days of the campaign, all right, and in all honesty, what it was once Peter Casey mentioned and said what he said, things changed. I mean, we were canvassing all of the doors that we could in Mayo, but you could tell you were getting story after story after story of people's personal experiences and why they felt that they were going to vote for Peter Casey.
So it was Peter Casey's fault?
It's not anybody's fault like that. It is voices that need to be heard within the system. And I think we need to be very careful from what has happened, but we also need action. We need real leadership within the travelling community and within, say, at local authority level here, to be able to deal with the issues that people have raised. Yeah, we cannot ignore them. The
big platform that Leah Ní Riada raised was a United Ireland, and you would have thought that within the Sinn Féin organisation, where you have huge support in literally all corners of the country, that this would have been exactly what Sinn Féin supporters wanted to hear and would have flocked to the polls to give a number one to Leah Ní Riada. And she finished up with, what was it, 6%?
About 7%, 7 point something percent.
So the United Ireland message either didn't get through, or else maybe Sinn Féin supporters aren't as keen for a United Ireland as Leah Ní Riada thinks.
I think Sinn Féin supporters are keen for a United Ireland. I just think at this particular time, I think there was very little room as well, Tommy, for discussion in the debates. I think the debates were very confined and restricted to things, so I think it was difficult to have a substantial debate about anything. In fact, I think one of the better debates was the debates that you had yourself on Midwest Radio, where you could at least have a discussion with the candidate But the other debates, I think the television debates, some of them are actually farcical, with the lack of substance that was discussed in it. But, United Ireland and the whole discussion and conversation around a United Ireland is here to stay. And I think with Brexit and with many other things, I think it will be a discussion that will be very much to the forefront in the next 12 months.
And finally, is Mary Lou feeling delicate this week? Delicate and Mary Lou aren't usually words I'd put in the same sentence, but is she feeling a little bit bruised?
I'm sure she is. I think we're meeting on Saturday. But, that's it. That's the rough and tumble of politics. You have good days and not so good days. And last week wasn't a good day for Sinn Féin. But, we will continue to fight for rural Ireland and to fight on the many other issues that we do. So we will continue on with that, and Mary Lou will continue on with her leadership.
Very good. Thank you very much indeed, Rose, for joining us today. Senator Rose Conway-Walsh there, telling us about the need for Minister Doherty there to sort out the issue around the payment or non-payment of illness benefit payments. So again, people are asking me to repeat the number of her office, so I'll give it to you one more time. It's Dublin 01 825 7204. That's if you want to ring Regina Doherty's office to say you're not getting your illness benefit payments, because she's saying that all payments or that no payments have been affected. But judging by our screen, lots have been. So it's your chance now to put your voice to the people beneath Regina Doherty, so that at least the message gets to her. There is a problem.